My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Well, hello there, and welcome to WTA Weekly. Oh, it's back. I'm back with Mario, and I'm very happy. Mario, how you doing?
I'm fine. I'm also very happy to be here. I mean, last time it was also kind of about Iga Paolini, so it's more or less the same situation.
Yeah, I think one of us is happy for one player, and one of us is happy for a different player.
Kind of both for
Kind
me.
of both. Yeah, oh, definitely kind of both. Yeah. Well, it's a good thing you're on this one. I think that will be good thing you're on this one. I think that'll be fun to go over the Billie Jean King Cup results with you. But I think for a lot of people, the headline is that Iga Swiatek is the Korea Open champion. She wins in Seoul, her 25th title in her career. And yeah, that was an interesting one, Mario. This title reminded me of Cincinnati a little bit. Maybe in that she looked very, very good up until the final, and then made life a bit difficult for herself and still found a way to win. What did you make of Iga Swiatek's title-winning run in Seoul?
I mean, if Iga can win both these kind of matches, like against Krejcikova joint, and then again against Alexandrova in a totally another sort of match like this one, then she's almost unstoppable. I mean, she showed this week both, some incredible performances, and the final, she started, flat. Alexandrova was executing her game plan very, very well, and Iga was a little bit, at the beginning, like we've seen at times, her getting a bit rushed and trying to actually not dealing that well with this rhythm by trying to overheat at times. And this what it was happening, I feel like, at the beginning. And Alexandrova, of course, was thanking, but also executing her game really well, playing an unbelievable match, actually, until the end, I would say. But yeah, Iga, these are the matches that show why you are where you are, because of course we know that Swiatek is able to play some unbelievable matches to show us unbelievable things and some flawless performances. She's done it this week as well, because her path to the final, just 3 matches, but actually only 3, 5, 10 games dropped in these 3 matches. And then she enters the final. It's a tough match against a player who's able to trouble her, because she's done, her had to add this, in Iga's favor. There have been matches where Iga won in a straightforward way, but actually there have been times where Alexandrova has been able to really trouble her, and this has been one of these cases. I want to say that it's been great to see Alexandrova being able to put that big of a fight, even when Iga upped her level later in the match. Alexandrova didn't step back, and didn't let Iga go away, especially, I don't know, for example, after Iga won the second set. But as for, for Iga herself, 3 titles in the last 5 tournaments she played. and actually two very big titles, but also this one 500. We know that Seoul means something for the family because her dad played the Olympics there in 1988. So probably she'll be happy to have played there. And yeah, of course, now we have a fight also for the number one in the ranking, because Sabalenka is not playing in Beijing, so there are 1,000 points at stake for Iga to get closer and closer. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, actually, she's just turned around her season in an incredible way since the grass season. And yeah, even though at times we have seen her, you have mentioned these two finals maybe not being the best matches of her career, but this one, I feel like it was a very important win, because against such a dangerous opponent in a day where you're not maybe best version possible, you still managed to stay there after the first set and fight until the end, and then play better the last 3 points of the match. And this is what matters the most. So I would say another week for the books, for the history books.
I mean, that seems to be the story with Iga Swiatek. Kind of what, sort of 6 to 8 weeks a year, right? It's another week in the history books. Maybe a few more than that if there's Grand Slams involved. But yeah, a good one for her. Obviously, significant win for her, given this is where her dad competed in the Olympics in Seoul in '88. And yeah, just continue to prove that she can win all kinds of matches. And yeah, you just get the sense right now with that Iga's kind of, I think Iga's got that mojo back that we thought she was lacking in the first half of the year, and maybe towards the back end of 2024 as well. And she does seem to go through these cycles of being these cycles of being like unstoppable and then kind of up there in the mix, but not necessarily like the winner that frequently. So it's interesting that seems to be the pattern for her at the moment. But right now, this is like Iga winning, but not necessarily as we recognize it. Like there does seem to be that sort of more confidence with her at the moment. Where, I mean, like we talk about the final and that match with Alexandrova, which I think you summarized pretty well. Where do you think that comeback in the final ranks in terms of great Iga Swiatek comebacks? Because we've now seen a few over the last couple of years.
Very high, in my opinion, because I have a very high consideration of Alexandrova, especially this year. She's world number 11. She's won over 40 matches. She's on track to try to end this year inside the top 10. So she's a player who you can it's surprising but not shocking to see Alexandrova being able to deal with such a tough player. And I would say that it's a very, very good one, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know how to rank, because there have been many important ones. For example, I feel like the comeback she had against Rybakina at the French Open has been one of the little turning points of the years for her of the year for her, because she started playing better and better since that, even though she hasn't won that French Open. The famous one against Collins at the Australian Open, but then she lost the following match. So maybe it does lack a little bit of importance in terms of how the tournament ended. And yeah, I would say it's probably in the top 5, considering how the player is, how dangerous the player is, how well she was playing. And also considering the fact that she has not only been able to come back, but also once she came back, it's not like the match shifted completely. She still had to really stay there and fight every point. It was a very close affair. So it was kind of twice difficult, because there was difficult in terms of coming back on track, and then also the difficulty of just getting that lead in order to win the match, because Alexandrova didn't give up in the slightest once Iga came back in the score.
Yeah, it was definitely a tough out win, and I think I would agree with you. It's up there, which is why I asked the question, because this match is going in the conversation for that. I mean, do you count the win against Osaka at Roland Garros in 24 as a comeback?
Well, it is a comeback. I mean, it's a different sort of comeback, actually, because it was. But yeah, for sure that was incredibly important, because then she won the Grand Slam as well. So probably, yeah, it was for sure a comeback. I don't know. I really like about this one that there hasn't been, that huge of a shift in terms of momentum like in that one. And I really like this because, I feel like when you have an opponent against you that, doesn't kind of implode once you come back in the score, it makes your life even more difficult. Of course, that one was a Grand Slam, so it has different importance. But this one is remarkable as well in its own way.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think, I guess that's kind of that question, isn't it? Like, I would count. I think on paper, I would say Osaka RG24 is the best comeback of her career, but when you kind of think about it, like back against the wall the entire match and like refusing to lose, this is probably up there, like similar to the Collins one, as you said. Honorable mention, I'd throw in the Bencic match point save at Wimbledon in 23 as well, into the conversation. But yeah, if you're talking about like a proper gritted out win, will not give up kind of scenario from a set down, then I think this one's going to be hard to beat for Iga. I think if you take the overall narrative of the whole thing, Osaka maybe is the one that will continue to rave about a bit more. But yeah, this one, especially against an opponent, as you say, that troubles her so much, is significant. Hopefully Alexandrova doesn't take this loss too harshly. I think that's important for her because she's had such a good year as well. I don't think she takes things too hard though as a player. So I'm optimistic for her. But she certainly can take a lot of solace that she was the player who tested Iga Swiatek the most in a week where Iga looked unstoppable. Like, she dropped 5 games in a day in 2 matches. So yeah, to do that, I think she deserves a lot of credit and should take more positives than negatives. Because correct me if I'm wrong, and on your on this, but I can't think of any moments where with Alexandrova in that match where I was like, oh, she should have got that. She should have won it.
No, not really. When we mention those comebacks Iga had against, for example, Osaka, Collins, there's also been something happening with the opponent, that kind of imploded at some time. Even the match against Rybakina at Roland Garros, I remember thinking a few times, Rybakina here could have done better. I mean, I've probably thought as well a couple times in this match, but overall, thinking about the match in itself, yeah, if I'm Alexandrova, I don't know if I can have that many regrets. Of course, Alexandrova is in that tough spot, in my opinion, where she can do like 99 and 100 was required yesterday, and she couldn't get. In Italy we say it takes 60 minutes to do an hour, and it's like if she stopped at 59, and it's tough psychologically, in my opinion, when you're like so close but yet you struggle a bit to make that mark, to win those kind of titles, because in the end she only won one 500 event, And I think for a player like her, she can, she could win a little bit more. But yeah, thinking about the final in itself, I think that she has to take it as a confirmation that she is really playing great tennis. And yeah, I mean, of course, maybe she would have liked to have a shot in another tiebreak, but overall, I feel like she did what she had to do.
Yeah, and that's what kind of player she does. She does what she needs to do. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And yeah, she's one of those players for me that like it all needs to come together on the day for her to do well. But she's been doing consistently well. As you say, she's on the verge of top 10 potentially, number 11 in the world right now. It might take I think it needs a good swing in her favor over the next few weeks for her to get that, but you never know. Might be in 2026, and that's good for her. One other person I want to mention from Seoul before we move on to BJK King Cup. I think one of the main stories from this week was Maya Joint making the semi-finals, and the reason I say that was because she. I think she got some high-profile wins. She beat Sophia Kenin. She bagels Clara Towson. And then I watched that semi-final she played against Iga Swiatek, and it was 6-love, 6-2. But that 6-2 set didn't feel like a 6-2 set. Like Joint was playing her very best to get a game, and she was putting up such spirited defense. And I could tell that there's still a gap in development there between her and Iga that she needs to close. I think experience and just overall quality at the moment came through, but I was kind of impressed by the fact that she wanted to still keep fighting and wasn't overawed by losing pretty heavily in the score in the semi-finals against the world number 2, against a multiple Grand Slam champion. So I wanted to throw that out there as I was impressed by her performance this tournament. Where are you at with Maya Joint at the moment, Mario?
I gotta say that she looked really mature despite the tough loss. I agree with what you said about the attitude, and she really looked like, of course, there's still a lot of work to do. I don't think she can be, of course, satisfied with how the match went, but when she was there on the court, she was like kind of thinking point by point, in my opinion. I've seen her really, focused on what she could and what she had to do. And I mean, she didn't got much in the match, but overall, I feel like it was such an important win, of course, because a semi-final and loss against Iga, it's kind of normal, a great week for almost everybody, but also because she got some fantastic wins. She played almost flawless matches, those two against Kenin and Towson, for example. And then I mean, it's tough, of course, to talk about a 6-love, 6-2 loss in a positive way, but I saw a good attitude, and I'm pretty sure it's useful to play these matches. Yeah, you get harshly beaten, but you understand what has to be the next step, where you need to close the gap. What does Iga Swiatek in order to make you look like almost helpless on the court? And I'm pretty sure these are experiences that we will help her. She's having a great season. Of course, some weeks have gone better than others. She's still a little bit, having some ups and downs, but it's normal. It's part of her growth. But what we've seen this year from her, it's very encouraging, I would say. And this week confirms it, even though it ended in a 0-2 loss. But it was. I'm very satisfied with what I've seen, and I think we have all the the reason to think that she can keep growing. She's very, very young, and she's already, a force you have to reckon with. So yeah, I'm expecting another big improvement next year.
Yeah, I think we can be optimistic for that. I certainly think she's got a really impressive game. She can do anything. She can attack. She can defend. I think she'll be one of the names to watch this Australian Open. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're kind of on the same page on Maya Joint as I am. And yeah, let's see how it goes. Obviously, we need to make sure she needs to make sure that she stays healthy. She doesn't get injured. That's important as well. But in order for that, but yeah, there's optimism that she can make a big difference, and she's a great fighter. There's no doubt about it. Is Maya Joint. So, all right, I think let's talk about what you really, really want to talk about. And it's not whatever has been put on the live chat by the official Talking Tennis account, which makes me think we've been hacked. But no, let's talk about what you really want to talk about, Mario, and why you're mainly here, which is the Billie Jean King Cup has been successfully defended by Italy. They made it difficult for themselves on the way through, and then played the final like they were the clear favourites. And why were we even questioning if they were going to win it or not? Kind of the opposite of how Iga Swiatek won, come to think of it. So, yeah, talk to me, Mario, about how you viewed the Italian team this week at the Billie Jean King Cup, and how big of a deal is it that they have now won a second consecutive title?
Yeah, I mean, they weren't flawless at all in the quarterfinals and the semifinals, but
how close were you to going out in the quarterfinals to China?
Yeah, and especially in the semis, because once Svitolina was up 6-3, 4-2, and a chance for a 5-2 lead against Paolini, and then everything started clicking, because since then everything went in the right way. I mean, it's always for me a great story when the Italian team wins on on the women's side, especially because right now it's kind of two completely different teams. Men's side, the last 2 years they won the title, but they have really, really a huge force that it's difficult to stop, and this makes it a little bit easier. Of course, the team has a top 10 player like Paolini, but it's not like you can't see them losing. But they are able to find something inside themselves, and Cocciaretto as well. She's been great this this week for Italy, and it's great, even though, I mean, they won a lot in this century. The first one came in their history came in 2006, and now we are at the sixth. So it happened quite frequently. This team is kind of completely different from the other that it used to be a big thing with Pennetta, Schiavone. Probably that was an even stronger teams in terms of because there was much choice in terms of who to send on the court for singles, for example. And there was also the doubles with Errani and Vinci together. So probably that was kind of a dream team. This one, it's not exactly like that, but it's still a very strong one, because of course, Errani Paolini are one of the best doubles pairs in the world. So it's really, really tough to beat them. Especially, I feel like Errani has got incredible in those pressure moments. She starts thriving on them in doubles. And Paolini is really helped by Sara Errani in the doubles court. And overall, I would say that it's been kind of a crazy ride. both of these two titles, especially the semi-final, both times, because last year it was the semi-final against Poland and that incredible win at the deciding doubles, and this year, especially the semi-finals against Ukraine, at it seemed lost at one point because Kostyuk beats Cocciaretto. Paolini has already lost against Svitolina at the Australian Open. At Roland Garros, is down a set and a break against Svitolina again here, and yeah, she manages to come back. Then the doubles, once again, great performance, and something magical happened on Sunday because both Cocciaretto and Paolini played incredible matches. Especially important was Cocciaretto in being able to get that big win against Navarro and leave a little bit less pressure from Paolini. It's still big pressure to play to try to seal the win, but you still enter the court knowing that even if you lose, nothing is really lost because there's still a chance in doubles. And so it's been, I wasn't expecting actually to see 4 sets to love in the final because, the US, of course, are also a great team. And yeah, I feel like it's just a great environment between them with the captain, which is doing an incredible job. And we'll see if they will keep going. We don't know. Sara Errani always hints at retirement, but then she say, "But we're still winning, so I think I have to keep going." And I'm happy because as she still plays a huge part in the team, both in doubles but also on the bench, I would say.
Yeah, she really does. Yeah, there's a couple of points in that I want to bring out. First of all, you're right. Cocciaretto, I think, was as valuable to the team as Paolini and Errani were, because she got that incredible comeback against one in the first round. Like she was match point down, she was 4-love down the decider, comes back, wins it, and then in the final, to beat Navarro in the way that she did was impressive. And I think Cocciaretto is one of those slightly underrated players that can give you a really good contest when she really shows up in general. So I think, this was a really strong Italian team. I know, compared to previous years, maybe not so much when you had, Errani and Vinci and Panetta, but I think this is probably starting to match it, even if Cocciaretto never quite hits the height of winning the big titles in the same way. And then you have Paolini, and I think if this was a singles tournament, we would be talking about this as one of Paolini's best performances. I think there'll be a lot more hype around Paolini because, as you say, she ended up. I mean, first of all, great comeback win against Wang Jinyu. Back against the wall, looked in trouble there. Really, that Svitolina win, I think, is huge for her psychologically. To kind of come back from a set and breakdown against a player who has beaten her and I thought would beat her. In fact, I was thinking, okay, Ukraine are probably going to win this. I think when I did the last WTA Weekly, I did a preview with Brenner and I said, well, I think you're going to get Ukraine against Italy in the semi-finals. The winner will probably play the US, and that's probably going to be Ukraine because I think Svitolina will end up being the decider. And I thought Kostyuk will beat Cocciaretto. And what happened? That script almost went how I thought it would, and then Paolini changed everything, comes back, wins it. It's still a tough third set as well against Svitolina. We ended up with her then coming against Pegula in the final, who she had a 0-5 head-to-head with. She's not beaten Pegula before, and then just crushes her. Now, I don't necessarily think Pegula was looking her best this tournament, but I think there's something to be said for Paolini coming back and controlling the matches she did, especially when kind of to win the whole tournament was on her.
Yeah.
I think for me, this has to rank up there with one of the most impressive performances, if not the most impressive performances I've seen from Jasmine Paolini in her career, and things just seem to get better and better. Like, she's won Rome this year as well. That's pretty high on the list for me. That, as well as her Grand Slam final ones, like winning that Wimbledon semi-final and getting to the Wimbledon final, like beating Rybakina in the French Open on her way to the final there. Yeah, I'm a big fan of what Paolini has achieved this week, and keeps proving that she belongs in the top 10, and showing that she's a top player, because every now and again she will pull out these incredible performances. So huge props to her. If there was a singles tournament, we'd be raving about the performance she put in to lift a title at, like, well, given who she was beating, this could easily been a 500 or 1,000. Even a 1,000.
Yeah, let's say that this year she completed the doubles, of important trophies for the national pride, the biggest tournament of the country.
Yeah.
So the WTA 1000 in Rome, actually both in singles and doubles, and then also, the Billie Jean King Cup. But I mean, she's, she still tends to be a little overlooked compared to the previous legends Italy had in women's tennis, even in Italy itself. But actually, she did everything. She won a gold medal at the Olympics. She won this trophy twice now, being the #1 singles player. Then she won the title in Rome, and it had already happened once in 1985, but it was particular, that tournament. Many top players weren't there because of some calendar issue. So she really did it, beating the best possible competition, the player who would have won the French Open in 3 weeks time. So she really did it all for the country and for herself as well. But I feel like, she has to be considered then, an absolute legend of Italian tennis and sports in general, because she's doing all what she can to give, every possible trophy, which, matters for, let's say, also this sort of national, let's say, pride, like the Olympics, the Billie Jean King Cup, but also, of course, the biggest title of, of the country.
Yeah, it's huge, and I think she deserves to be a big deal in Italy, given how much she's put in there for her country. I mean, obviously you can speak about it because you live there, but I think she's going to be fantastic, continue to be fantastic for Italy, and I hope that the crowds show up in force to support her when we get back to Rome next year. I want to hear her matches be as noisy as Yannick Sinner's.
Yeah.
I think that would be excellent. And I understand what you mean, but like, I don't know. I would say, like, I know what you mean. Like, because obviously you've got players who've won Grand Slams this year. Like, I'm thinking of Flavia Pennetta. Saw the opportunity, took it. Like, she's a Grand Slam champion. Vinci and Irani reached Grand Slam finals along with Paolini, but I would put her in that category. I would put her in the same sort of league as them. I don't see why not. I think she would have fit very
at this point, yes. At this point, I agree. Of course, winning a Grand Slam is too big of a deal. So probably, Schiavone and Pennetta, the two that have done it in singles, are still, a little bit, ahead compared to the others. But, she for sure belongs to this group. I mean, she won 1,000 titles. She played Grand Slam finals. She won the Olympics. She won the Billie Jean King Cup. There's no, only a Grand Slam is missing, but as for the rest, she really did everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we should keep celebrating Italy. I'm just going to mention like one or two of the other teams in the event. United States, they probably had a team that could rival Italy for strength, which makes Italy's win in the final even more impressive in my eyes. They had a really good strength and depth in the team. They seem to be edging closer to winning the Billie Jean King Cup in the near future, given, again, how strong that team is. It should only be a matter of time. If they showed up with a team of Gauff, Anisimova, Keys, and Pegula, even if you didn't bring in any double specialists, that would be a strong team. That would be ludicrously
Bye-bye
good.
to everybody else.
Yeah. So maybe one day they will with this new placement in the calendar. But yeah, what do you think, Mary? Do you think it just feels like a matter of time before they win another one? Obviously not waiting too long, because obviously we're planning on Italy winning about 3, 4, 5 in a row, right?
For sure. No, I mean, I was, of course, if I have to think from US perspective, the final was disappointing because, I was not expecting such a straightforward final. Even to love, maybe it was even possible because, you're right. I have high consideration of Cocciaretto. She's always injured. She's always had some sort of injury. She's had a huge injury when she was 21 and on the verge of breaking inside the top 100. So, it hasn't been an easy career from that point of view for her, and this probably had an impact on her development as a player. But she's one of these players that, when everything clicks, her timing on the ball is huge and she can really, cause damage. So considering that Navarro isn't doing as good as last year and, is struggling a bit lately, I thought it was possible to think Cocciaretto winning. Of course, it was, even sort of a straightforward win, which was impressive. And I don't know, I feel like both could have done more this week, both Navarro and Pegula. Even Pegula, never really looked that great. I mean, even Paolini until the 3-6 to 4 against Vitolina, but then something clicked. This hasn't happened for Pegula for whatever reason. And, she never really looked like herself in the final against Paolini, especially after, getting broken at the end of the first set. Then, Paolini starting, swinging freely, but Pegula was like, not there to really give everything. Yeah, she did a little bit, when she was on the verge of losing in the final, let's say final 2 games. But yeah, it just wasn't the gritty Pegula that we have been used to see over the past, let's say, 4 or 5 years. So I don't know. I feel like they could have done better. Of course, it's still a good result to be runner-ups. But yeah, with the team they had, I don't know. I don't know how much of a priority it will be for them to win it. But of course, if they all commit, of course, it would be, they would be difficult to stop. Then, of course, these 2 out of 3 matches ties are not that easy because, imagine you make Gauff and Anisimova play and one of them suddenly has a day off, then it's up to the doubles. So, even if you show up in full force, it's not that easy because the margins are slimmer compared to the past. But still, of course, they have all the chance to win one of these in the near future.
Definitely. I would agree with that. Last note on the Beijing Cup before we kind of move on to looking ahead. I don't know about you, Mario, but I had a lot of fun with this Beijing Cup. It was my favorite tournament to watch this week. And the reason for it is it felt like there were absolutely brilliant matches every single day. The only match that Seoul could throw up to compete was the final. But every day you had an epic 3-set match. There was a lot of passion. There was a lot of great energy, even from a neutral crowd in terms of the Chinese supporters or anyone who'd kind of flown in. But there were memorable moments. Like I know I had people messaging me when GB played the US in the semi-final. Like people I knew were watching watching it because it was on the BBC, and saying, "Oh, we're giving the Americans a good game. Like it's really good watch, like Cartel against Navarro." Also Bolter getting up ahead and like Pegula having to work her way back into that match. And that was a good win for Pegula, I thought. Navarro beating Putintseva 8-6 in a deciding set tiebreak. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this BJK Cup week, and I really like the place in the calendar. I really like the format here, but also, most of all, I just really thought the matches were very exciting, and yeah, I enjoyed that. So I hope that you enjoyed it somewhere near how much I did, Mario.
I had a blast actually, because there were great matches on paper as well, but at times we see tournament where great matches on paper don't really translate into actual good matches. I can think about too many examples, and no, they they kind of all delivered. Actually, even matches that shouldn't have been so close became incredible fights. For example, I don't know, I was expecting, for example, Team Italy to have it a bit easier against China, at least the second singles match, but it wasn't this way. But also, the GB team had really a great fight against the US. I don't know, I feel like everything was great. The place in the calendar is for sure better than the previous one, because it's where the next tournaments will be played. For example, Cocciaretto has already played the match in Beijing and won it, so she had all the time to do everything, and didn't have to choose between one thing or the other. And it's also not after the WTA Finals, which makes it a bit stressful and difficult for some players who have played maybe in another continent the WTA Finals. So yeah, I feel like the spot in the calendar is for sure better than the previous one, and this also helped. I think many players showed up. Yeah, Team USA could have been even stronger than it was, but overall the players showed up, and we've seen really good matches. So yeah, it was a great week. Nothing really to say.
Nothing else to say. Yeah, no, I know I put you on the spot going, everything is great, please agree with me. So
no, but it was for sure, it was.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you enjoyed it as much as I did. Yeah, I thought we had some great tennis on display the whole week. I guess my question, Mario, is, I'm going to include Seoul in this. Well, obviously we mean the Seoul final, let's be honest, but like, what was your WTA match of the week, or matches of the week if it has to be a draw?
Well, Billie Jean Cup had many of these potential matches, but of course the Seoul final jumps in the discussion suddenly. I don't know. Personally, I really enjoyed Paolini against Vitolina, because not only the result, but there were also some everlasting games. There really was, an incredible fight. For me, probably, that one was even slightly better. But yeah, I think also the Seoul final was great. I'm struggling to choose.
Yeah, I can't choose either. Like, they're both great for different reasons.
From the Billie Jean Cup, I would say that one probably, Paolini against Vitolina, because I feel like there were some incredible stuff there, and I don't know. I can't choose.
Yeah, no, it's tough. No, sometimes it's legitimate. You just have to go for a draw. But and I think
I want to say one thing. We can choose, but it happened so many weeks. This thing, we've talked about how much you have enjoyed this Billie Jean Cup edition, but I actually want to say how much I am enjoying the 2025 season. I feel like it's been great. It's been really a fantastic season so far. So many fantastic things have happened every week, more or less. I feel like it's been incredible so far.
I think the season's been so much fun. I think there's been so many great storylines. I think the one thing it's been lacking is this like one all-time like match that's like everyone's like raving about. Maybe we got that a little bit in Australia, but other than that, like that was it. If I think about last year, we had that Madrid final or the Osaka comeback or the Wimbledon semi-final. Like we haven't necessarily had that sort of explosive match that everyone's raving about in the same sort of way. That there's still some of the season left and we can still have that. Yeah, I think that for me is probably the kind of the only thing holding it back. But you're right. When you watch it week to week and day to day and seeing all the storylines coming out, these matches are the season's been amazing. And like my comment about these big matches is kind of a nitpick. It's not a major criticism. So like it's kind of the other way around, right? To 2024, we had these amazing matches, but maybe the narrative weren't in reverse.
Yeah, let's say that even answering to the question, maybe in 3-4 years time we would have forgotten a little bit. So probably to the question is yes, but long term. Short term, I would say that as somebody, of course, who follows it more or less every week and every day, I'm really having a blast this year because I feel like there's so much to look forward to, and even the absence, for example, of a top player like Sabalenka in Beijing is not really making the tournament, I'm not looking forward less to that tournament because of one absence, because there's just so much great stuff all around the draw.
I know I'm usually the king of segues, but that is the best segue I've heard all year, Mario, to get us into Beijing, because you pretty much tackled the question that was on my mind, was how much are you looking forward to Beijing? And obviously Sabalenka's absence is the overriding story of the draw. She got injured in that US Open run. I think missing Beijing is a big deal for her, potentially with Swiatek closing in. Although not a big deal if she were to miss Wuhan, where there's a lot of points on the table there. But I agree with you. The tournament is not necessarily poorer without her by that much. Maybe it shifts the question to who can stop Iga Swiatek. Seems to be the question. The answer is quite a lot of people on paper, or have the potential to, but predicting which one is going to be hard. And I think, if any of them, because Iga's playing well and is very determined, and so might just go, no, none of you are beating me, no matter how well you play. So this one's going to depend on how Iga is, and this one's going to depend on how player X is, and we have no idea who player X is. And I guess for you, as for me, that's what makes this exciting.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we are setting everything up for a WTA Finals final between Iga and Aryna. Who wins takes the number one.
Yeah,
it will be amazing. But no,
we had
whatever.
a semi-final where that kind of happened in 2023.
Yeah, but it has to be a final, and it has to deliver.
Yes. I don't think WTA Finals have had that before, actually, where it's like a winner-takes-all match for number one.
No, I remember maybe the last one was on the men's side, 2016, between Murray and Djokovic. After that, I don't think it has happened on both tours. Anyway, the question is mostly that, because let's say that right now, over the past, let's say, couple months, we've had two players who have been, better than the rest of the field, at least winning the big stuff. So of course one of them is absent, and then of course now all the spotlights is on Iga, who can use this this tournament to try to close everything in. I mean, Sabalenka is absent. I mean, I think after winning the US Open, that was such a big deal for her to close the season with a Grand Slam title that I'm pretty sure she probably she even needed more rest, regardless of how the injury is. It felt like this US Open was really, really important for her from every point of view. Um, I'm looking at the draw. Iga, got an acceptable draw, let's say. Of course, there's always some danger here and there. We know that Kalinskaya was very close to take a set of her at the US Open. She was up 5-1 at some point in the first set. But overall, I feel like she got an okay draw. Probably Osaka is the most informed player beside her in this top half, I would say.
I think if we get a Swiatek Osaka quarterfinal, which, looking at the form, I would say is the most likely outcome, that's going to be a blockbuster match.
Yeah, I would be interested if Pegula reaches that potential fourth round against Osaka. It would be interesting to see how the matchup develops, because I think Pegula can enjoy her counter-punching, style of tennis against somebody like Osaka. But we would see. I'm not sure about anything about Pegula right now. I have to say, there's also Raducanu there, for example. And many players who can find a good day at the office, actually, because there are players like, I don't know, Vekic are always a question mark. Let's say that we know that they can be completely out of form, but at the same time they can be able to play an incredible match. Marta Kostyuk had a great week at the Billie Jean King Cup. Maybe she can bring some confidence into this tournament. But overall, this draw is made in this way that everybody is going to eliminate the other, and only one of them can face Iga. I feel like
pretty much. That seems the story of it, and I know what you mean about sort of these on paper. That's the beauty of it, is these players who we've seen have moments of world-beating play, and I think there's reasons to believe that we could see one of those again, which is what makes this very interesting. And that's what, like, it's going to be a question of which one and how's Iga going to do against them, and that's where we're at the moment with the draw. So, I mean, that's even get to quarterfinals, semifinals. Iga's potential opponent, I mean, by seeding could be Mira Andreeva. But that section seems quite open, to be honest. A lot of very up and down form players in there. Andreeva might be being the most consistent. And then section 5, you've got players like Mukova in there, Anisimova. Let's see how she is. Paolini, what kind of boost does she get from the Billie Jean King Cup? Section 8, I think, is most interesting, though, because I want to know how Gauff is, and whether she's had time to really work on that serve post-US Open in these last few weeks. That's what she was doing during the tournament. What kind of Gauff are we going to get? Because she's the defending champion.
Yeah.
And what Rybakina are we going to get? Because I feel like this is a huge opportunity for her to make that next step and get a winner's trophy again. And I was predicting, like, Rybakina a few weeks ago, Rybakina might be a player to watch in Beijing. So I'm excited to see what kind of result we get. And I wouldn't be surprised if we got an Iga-Elena final, which would be so exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, naming Elena final, actually, I would love that.
Yeah. No, for sure. She's one to watch. She played a very good, let's say, North American summer swing, even though something lacked at some point in every tournament, let's say. But overall, we've seen her with the greater level than we saw, in the first half of the year. She was really more dangerous, and also consistently played at high level, which is important for sure for her. So it feels like it has to happen somewhere, let's say, considering the level she's playing at. And Beijing can be an opportunity for sure, because of course we have underlined all those question marks. Yeah, for sure. She's got dangerous opponents. for sure, because there can potentially be, I don't know, either Alexandrova or Krejcikova. But yeah, for sure, we know that the best version of Rybakina is, not afraid of anybody, because she can beat basically anybody. And yeah, of course, we'll see what happens here. There's also a big comeback, because there's Kim Wen coming back into a
That's
big
one of the
draw.
headlines. Brenner texted me before the show, like, "Oh, John Chin Wen's back." I was like, "Yep."
Yeah, I actually had no idea, because the absence was so long that I kind of started getting used to not see her, let's say, in a draw. So I opened the draw, I saw her name, and I remember, okay, yeah,
I'm not
she's back.
surprised that this was the target for her to come back in.
For sure.
I'm not holding out, like, I'm not expecting her to like sweep the draw or anything like that. I'm expecting to win maybe 1 or 2 matches, but she's going to be match rusty. She's going to be getting her fitness back. But I'm very happy to see her back in a draw.
Yeah, for sure. She's a great addition. Last year, especially at the end, and also, the first part of this year, she was starting to become, one of the big players, one of the top players. So she almost entered, let's say, that slam winning talk before getting injured. And now it's kind of, I don't want to say all the way back, because she still is the player she is, and but of course she had a big setback in this moment of her career. We'll see for sure. It's important for her to play this tournament, and also I think it's also can be important for her to enter 2026 already having played some matches. So both valid reasons to to be excited about this comeback and see what she's going to do. She's always played well in this part of the year for different reasons. I don't know if we're going to see that version of herself, but it will for sure be a great one to watch, let's say.
Yes, definitely one to watch. Excited. I think, she's going to be one of the stories of the tournament. Obviously, she's going to get a lot of crowd support, and I think hopefully this will help her get ready for Wuhan, where she's defending quite a few points, and make an impact there in a couple of weeks' time. But obviously, we'll get through Beijing first. Also coming back is Victoria Mboko. Hopefully that wrist has sorted itself out as well. But yeah, I think we've got a really exciting draw here. So I guess before we go, because we're like the first round is starting tomorrow or overnight. Obviously got to get qualifiers done as well. But are there any first rounds that are sort of jumping out at you as like potentially interesting, or are we waiting for this tournament to really get interesting by kind of round 2?
Well, I mean, we don't know, of course, the qualifiers yet, but there are some interesting matches. I'm looking at Siniakova, Potapova, for example, but also, Krejcikova facing Blinkova. Blinkova is also one of these players. You never know which version you are going to get. And, Krejcikova is starting playing better and better, but it can turn into a tough one. I can see how this can happen. We'll see. It can be interesting, because if Krejcikova wins, especially if Krejcikova wins, it can be very interesting, a clash between Krejcikova and Alexandrova in round 2, for example. Mboko is also not an easy draw at all, because she starts already with somebody like, I don't know, let's imagine Siniakova or Potapova, and then there's Noskova in that section. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think we've got on the screen the one I immediately caught my eye was Magdalena against Bianca Andreescu. Probably the biggest names clash in terms of like got a Grand Slam semi-final taking on a Grand Slam champion. Andreescu playing for the first time since Montreal. another injury break, another comeback. But she and Lynette have a habit of playing long, exciting matches. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. That could be a real battle, that one. I think the other one I've kind of identified as one. I like the ones that you picked. The other one I identified as an interesting one would be the match to play Amanda Anisimova, which is Katie Boulter and Hailey Baptiste. I can imagine that being quite a fun encounter.
I'm very up on Baptiste, actually.
Yeah, a lot of people are.
Yeah.
You're not the only one.
I really like, I watched a lot of her, and this year I'm seeing a very, very
She's a very
convincing
crafty
version.
player, isn't she? She can do a lot of different things, and she's got a lot of options.
So yeah, both can be a very, very tough opener for Anisimova for sure.
Yeah. I like Baptiste. I think she gives great entertainment as a player. So I'm interested to see how she's getting Boulter, who seems to be getting her mojo back a bit. Beijing King Cup, she was kind of back to her best. So
yeah, even though probably Boulter plays a bit more at Anisimova's game, rather than Baptiste. So probably Baptiste can be, should be even tougher probably.
I think
for
Baptiste.
Anisimova.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the match between them. I think that Baptiste Boulter, in terms of being a good match in itself, in terms of who would provide the best, in terms of like the most exciting opponent for us to watch Anisimova play, it would be Hailey Baptiste. Producer's saying can't find Ostapenko.
No, this is Ostapenko. We don't know why there's no name. But here she is already placed in the second round as well, of course.
Yeah, she's already made it through. Yeah. So we'll play either a qualifier or Victoria Golubic. All right. Well, that's our WTA hour. Mario, thank you so much for coming on, and it's always a pleasure, getting hyped about tennis with you. And I really enjoy talking to you and sharing the joy of the sport with you.
Same, actually, it. So it's always a big pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. So hope to have you on again. It's always great to do WTA Weekly with you.
I will come back.
And yeah, we'll see the rest of you lot. Thank you all for watching. Whether it's been live or on catch up. If you are watching live, join us for the Alex Ayala Falai match that's happening early tomorrow morning European time. And there's ATP Weekly happening tomorrow as well, after the finals in Chengdu and Hangzhou.
Yeah, the Tuesday finals.
Yes, welcome to the Asian swing where everything happens middle of the week. And we'll probably be seeing similar sort of things with Beijing. So does mean that there's no WTA Weekly for a couple of weeks because there's another 10-day 1000. So we'll be back to review everything that happened in Beijing. Is Iga Swiatek going to win a second Beijing title? Is Coco Gauff going to defend her title? Or are we going to get another player using Beijing as a great springboard to end the year well? Maybe like a Rybakina or an Osaka. So brilliant. As always, thanks everyone for joining, Spawn Politics and Kirit and, of course, Ghosty. And I'll see you all next WTA Weekly. In the meantime, take care and keep talking tennis.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.